Global.Media.com. Every step forward is a new beat to your drum. Achieve success with Global.Media.com. Then celebrate it with or without champagne or rum.
I am live, I tell you. It has been a journey, a roller coaster to join us on our show today, my friends. But we're here. Eventually, I've gone live. Now, I knew I should have made the show start at 3:30, not at 3 o'clock. But that's my time, obviously. Wherever you are in the world, it could be the same time. If you're in the US, you're a few hours behind us, so it's morning in your time. Yeah, but tech plays out. Tech does what tech does, right? You know, things that were meant to work normally did not work. Things that worked were very, very slow. Yeah, so no problem. I'm not going to stress about it. I'm here. I think this is the last show before Christmas, right? I have a good feeling. What's today's date? Today's date is 10th. Yeah, so it's definitely a last show. Guys. I'm just telling my YouTuber. Welcome, Ariel. I can see you on my WhatsApp saying, Annie, where are you? It's meant to start. But here you are, and here I am. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you. Nat, welcome. Superstar Josh is here as well. So I'm glad you're here. Welcome, all of you. So Josh is getting back to his usual self. So, we are expecting, not expecting, we're hoping for more great songs that Josh writes and performs. I have no doubt they will come, right? Yeah, we'll have the 2025 to remember. I hope you have anyway, right? 2026 can a little bit better. Welcome, Philip. So the man of empathy and compassion. Glad you're here. Might say Mr. Khan was here in the studio, then he disappeared. But what can I say? So of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts. The link is in the comments. LinkedIn user, my favorite LinkedIn user. I don't know whether you're my favorite one or you're one of my other LinkedIn users. But please drop, is Shalila is what it looks like. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Oh, thanks, April. Thanks, Ariel. Sorry. December 12th. Yeah, well, look, I stopped work on the 20th of December. I'm gonna do myself a favor this year and have a break, right? And so if I say I'm gonna stop on the 20th, I know that means I'm gonna stop on the 23rd, 24th. So at least I'm giving myself half a chance, right? Normally, I lie to myself. I tell myself, you know what, you gotta stop work on the 24th before midnight. Early evening would be nice. And I can sit down and drink. Well, into Christmas. That's the idea. I play my game while I'm there, right? But I end up working into Christmas, and basically I look up eventually, and it's, I see it's Christmas Day. It's 5:30 in the morning. Now I've got no time to sleep, so I can wake up early and do the presents thing with the family and all that stuff. This year I'm going to stop days early. I'm going to do nothing from the 20th. If you enjoy our shows, then you're going to find out that there are shows on Christmas Day. Just not with me. I'm not going to be here. If I'm here, I'll sit there quietly in the background. I might comment every so often, but I am going to have that break. I've got things to do, my friends. I've got games to play. I'm still trying to finish my Dying Light 2. If you're not a PlayStation 4 player, then miss nothing to you, right? The Dying Light is the game I've been playing for the last couple of years. That's how bad things are. Yeah, I work. No, but 2026 is coming. So have a Christmas break, Annie. Yes. And then come back and do loads of things. I got a workshop on the 12th for those who really want to put their plans, their action, their dreams, their goals into action. That's with Dr. Paula Washington. So we're going to give you a strategy that you can take away to start implementing your big idea, right? That's on the 12th of January. So I'm going to start marketing that today. I got my new website launching. Of course, we have to write that too. And then I think on the 4th of February, we have our first author speakers conference. So I've got 3 speakers already for that conference. So I love to give authors a voice to the world. You write your book, let's speak your message, let's speak your truth. So if you want to be a speaker on an author speakers event, then let's talk. Now let's find a way to get you in, right? Let's find a way to get you on the schedule. Is it called schedule? I don't know. It's on the roster, right, of speakers. It's going to be a great thing because I intend to give speakers a real audience this year, not just online. Even though the first one on the 4th of February is online, it's going to be a Zoom paid event. That way, my speakers get paid. I get to pay you for speaking. So I'm tired of people who essentially exploit us speakers, right? They come and speak, but it's always free. It's always free. No, it's not free. Our time's not free. I want to be professional speakers. And there's this quirk in the speaking world where people call those who have spoken for them before. So it means if you're not one of the speakers already, you're screwed, right? You're doomed. That's ridiculous. I want to give speakers a leg up. So the event on the 4th of Feb is going to be our first in our new author speaker series. And then, of course, I sleep, Josh. I'll come to that in a second. And then we're going to do a couple more before the year is out. The difference between the 4th of Feb event and the other events is simply that, we are going to be in a physical venue. I want a paid audience to come and watch us speak. Of course, if you're in the UK, it's probably going to be easier for the first one. I guess if you're not in the UK, don't worry. I want to hear your voice. I want to have you as one of our speakers. So it means that you can't speak on screen. So we have to choose venues with glorious screens. I've seen it done before, and I know it's easily done. You speak, whether you're speaking on Zoom or whatever your camera, your camera and streaming platform is, maybe even StreamYard, and essentially the audience can see you in full Technicolor. You get a chance to sell your books, you get a chance to get the visibility you need, get a chance, maybe to do what I really want my friends to do. My friends want to be speakers. See, when people say they want to be speakers, I know there's a lot more to it than that. Yes, there's all the finding your voice, finding the confidence, finding yourself, finding your message. But the heart of being a professional speaker is that you learn the skills and the tricks of the trade. Only by actually giving you a stage where you have to really be forced to go through the process. If I use my friend Sandra as an example, you find that she practiced for weeks and weeks and weeks to give a 10-minute speech. 10-minute speaking, do earlier or later than sometime this summer this year, right? Following her book Unmuted. So when I had to go and speak in Ghana, I had to practice. Of course, Annie's right? Annie's lazy half the time. Annie's like, I know what I'm gonna say, which it worked. I knew what I was gonna say, but I still had to practice delivering it over and over. Eventually, I got myself a speaking coach to help me. Right, it's all of that. I'm saying as speakers, we have to get professional with our public speaking. Look, if public speaking is your thing, let's make 2026 a year that we bring you to the world, right? So welcome Victoria, superstar Victoria. So you get to meet Victoria hopefully soon. I'm trying slowly to bring her to come and speak in one of these events, and then you meet her and then you think, wow, what an amazing person. From trauma to pain is Victoria's story. From trauma to serving, I guess probably is more the point, right? She's been through things in life, and now she turned her life around to create a haven, sanctuary for people who are having a hard time. And she houses them, supports them. It's not just counseling she does. She does all the, mindfulness techniques that you can think of. Too many for me to mention, Victoria. I don't know enough about any of them, right? No, but she's on a mission to help more people to find themselves and overcome trauma. Very necessary in this, in this day and this age as well. Charito, welcome, welcome. Good to see you. Someone going to join me on stage? I wonder. I'm not overly concerned, right? I've got a show planned for you. Liana, welcome. Can I see your name? Yeah, sure you're here somewhere, right? And Dr. Nancy Rogers, you're here. What joy you give me. Seriously. Nah. All right. So 2026 is coming, my friends. Here's a question for you. So in 2025, maybe even the years before now, what's worked for you? Like, what's been working? Which people have been working for you? Yeah. Ponder that for a second. Who serves you? And of course, who no longer serves you? What are you going to ditch? What are you going to carry on doing in 2026? If it's not working for you, stop doing it, ditch it, change it, do something, right? If it's working for you, then do more of it. We actually have to ask ourselves that question. What's working, what's not working? So when I ask myself what's working, what's not working, I guess I figure for these events, even though we get good results from my friends, my co-hosts, the good results meaning we get leads, we get sales. Almost bar none, it's guaranteed, right? The very least we get is collaboration opportunities for my friends who do amazing things. That's my mission, right? But I've realized I need to change how I do my inviting. So I've got a note on my computer that says quality over quantity. Again, so when I started doing these events, the aim was simply to invite people who are interested in your topic to come to your room to hear us speak about your topic. They're the ones who are going to make an inquiry. They're the ones who are going to want to work with you. They're the ones who are going to want to do stuff with you, right? That was going to help your business grow and help you achieve your goals. Somewhere down the line, when you do events, I suppose you get lost in the numbers game. I want more people in my room. Now, when we were doing audio a couple of years ago, I remember, we started off small, 20 in the room, 30 in the room. Then suddenly, we got to the stage where we started getting 50, 70, 100, 120. The problem was that those 120 people were not necessarily buying any more than a room full of 10 people. So I think 2 Christmases ago, the start of 2024, I said to myself, you know what? Let me stop inviting everyone. Let's invite those who are engaged, those who buy, those who are interested in growth, those who actually want to move forward based on what we share with them. So I culled my inviting strategy to essentially focus on those who I know are interested, those who have been to our rooms before and added value, giving us something, right? This year, I'm doing the same thing. So right now, I'm changing who I invite. I am changing who I can't invite everyone. And I guess I have to stop inviting those who just come to talk without ever being interested in who we are, what we do, how we help. Those who have no solutions for us to even engage with and buy from them. What does that mean? I wonder. So I'm implementing that slowly but surely. And I said it means I will use more of my RSVP list to select who I invite to my friends' events. I see Lisa. Lisa is amazing because she gets good people in her room. They want to talk about menopause, all of them. That's a good thing. I don't know how she's managed to do it because it's mostly her friends that come along. But her room is focused on her topic, her topics. And I want every room to be like that. But you're gonna see how it plays out as the weeks go by. Just being a bit more selective on who's here and who's not here, and who comes on stage and doesn't come on stage. Some people are going to come in the studio and never come on stage. That's going to be remarkable. That's going to be hard to deal with. Liana, welcome, welcome. I suppose, look, I'm not closing the door on everyone, on anyone. Maybe I should say that. Now, what I want is for the people that come to speak, people that join us to be like us, positive, you know, striving, achieving, doing essentially is the point, right? We need people to inspire us. I need people to inspire me too. Say I'm not, that saying, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. I truly believe that, right? I truly believe that. And too often we're the smartest people in the room, and that's worrying. We need people who are smarter than us, people who are more ambitious than us, people who are more achieving than us, people who we can learn from, people who we can be inspired by. I will search every part of my little brain to find out where I can find those people. But what I won't do is aim for numbers like I have been. I want to narrow the numbers down to those who are engaged. Now, look, I'm lucky. I'm extremely lucky, right? And many of my friends are authors. So I've built a community of authors, either authors already or people who want to write books. That's the joy in my life. That means I will support each other and I will buy each other's books. So that keeps me happy. The only reason I can guarantee all my clients are international #1 Amazon bestsellers is because you buy the books. We need more of us and less of the time wasters. Sharon Rose, welcome. Glad you're here. Natalie says, would you say you've been writing? What would you say has been your writing to publish success accordingly? Nat, it's a good place to start now. So things move in mysterious ways. I don't know. No, look, success as an author is based on many things, right? Some people just getting to tell your story is success. Just getting to write your book is success because it's now on paper and it's now out of your head, freaking you out every day, giving you a headache, like a big weight, like a rucksack on your head, right? So for some people, just writing a book is success in that. For other people, selling books is a success. When you figure that many, many, many authors, most authors don't sell more than 50 books in their lifetime. Every time we say, when we go over that sort of number, which we do, if we do a bestseller campaign, we're going to sell hundreds of books, right? So that's success for me. So of course, and when I mention bestsellers, I have to, I always think of the numbers there because we need to get to be #1 on Amazon's categories. That means selling enough books to beat all the other books sales in the world in a category on that day. So the numbers do matter. For me, that's making all my authors who are paid for my service international bestsellers is an amazing feeling. That's amazing achievement for me and for my authors, right? Because it doesn't just take me. You publish your book. We do a lot of work in the background on the emails and on the DMs, even on building relationships. That's how my authors get #1 international bestsellers, right? So again, so another year passes, and now all my authors I've done Amazon bestsellers campaigns for have won. That's real success for me. I would say that Scott selling best part of 400 books on his launch day was a glorious experience. That was truly amazing. But again, it's based on Scott's relationships, Scott's friends who came to support him on the day. It doesn't mean they came to our events. It just means that they were there on the emails, they were there on the DMs, they were there when he messaged them and said, "Here's a link to buy the book." Buy the book. And I think Scott probably had the most people in our book launch prize draw. Normally we get about 20 people on our prize draws. I think Scott had best part of 45, 50, if not more. So many people, in fact, he had 9 prize draws to give away 9 different gifts. And that cheered me up. So I'm dying to get to do what I want to do. Just reach over here. Give me 1 second. Right. When you talk about success, Nat, I can't talk about success without mentioning the legend we call Paulette Hallam. Hopefully you can see this properly. So these are Paulette's 3 books, the Jack and Walter series. See, now this gives me proper joy because this series has sold upwards of 3,500 books. That gives me so much joy. Now that's my most successful author. I know more successful authors than that, but it's a Paulette's book series. It gives me a lot of joy, right? Which brings us to our topic today, my friends. Let's talk about book series. You see, you can sell one book, of course you can. You can publish a book, sell a book. That has its advantages, like I just said. You tell your story, you get yourself out there. You get people to take what you say serious. You get people to understand a bit more about what you think, how you think, what you do, how you do. Maybe also even how you be, right? So the person you are. And my son asked me yesterday, Dad, what's the point of publishing books? Like, all the things I just told you. So people go to books to find truths, right? Your book is going to be your legacy. It's going to be your business card. It's going to be it's going to be your manual. So those who don't even know you will see your book for years and generations to come. Those who want to work with you and thinking, is it worth it? They could read your book and understand that you really can help them. There's a joy in books, right? See, one book it's hard to sell. It's not really. One book, when you sell a book, you make X amount of royalties. 60% of Amazon, 40% of Amazon, depending on which price category you choose. See, then if you write another book, now you have 2 books. Potentially, people can buy 2 of your books, and can you double your revenue, your income? Potentially. But they have to buy two separate books. And then we start talking about things like bundling. If you join book 1 and book 2, will people buy the books? Now they get two books for the price of one. It's not for the price of one. 2 books for one price. We have the ability to change the pricing if we choose to. Essentially, we can do bug off. Yes, buy one get one free. No, really, we can. Amazon doesn't do free unless you're part of their, the Kindle Direct Reading Club, which I don't know. I don't advise my authors to be in Kindle Direct publishing. But Kindle Direct, Readers Club, because it's restrictive for 3 months. Your marketing is tied to Amazon pretty much. I'm not saying we can't do marketing this side and sell more books, but I think the promise also on Kindle Direct, in a reading club, is simply that you get 0.0 and a few numbers commission if you book in the Kindle Direct publishing or Kindle Direct reading club, right? It's not working. I say literally, I don't understand. You're not going to make any money out of it at all. You're lucky if you make $10, 10 cents. Because you get paid by how many pages people read. Maybe you're the one that everyone's going to pick up your book on Kindle Direct and then decide to read the whole book over and over and over again. And you make lots of money. But most people don't make anything. Is that a bad thing? Maybe not. So then we get to, you publish a 3rd book. Number 3 matters. So like I just said, people want to publish books. They want to do a book series. They come to any. Can you come? Can I want to do a book series. You're like, You need 3 books to do a book series on Amazon. Yeah, think of that. If you haven't got 3 books, you can't do a book series on Amazon. Now, I mentioned in the description, I'm going to talk about other bookstores. See, on Draft to Digital, you can bundle your books. You can do as you wish. You have a lot more freedom than you do on Amazon. And Draft to Digital, we do 2 books in a book bundle. I've just been through this with Dr. Paula Washington. She's good. No, we just published her latest book, her workbook, the Encore Reset Journal. She wants to bundle that with her first book, the Encore Playbook, which is, I guess, the content in that is what informs the workbook, right? The workbook is essentially, what you complete, what's on a self-learning basis. You get to write in the spaces your answers to the issues raised in the main book. Well, essentially, book 1 and book 2 go together. The Encore Playbook is book 1. The Encore Reset Journal is book 2. But you can say when we try to bundle that on Amazon, the rules basically say quite clearly you can't bundle books on Amazon, which is ridiculous. No, it's not really that. It's their rules, right? You can't bundle books on Amazon. You can't have 2 books on Amazon. You can't have 5 books that's a bundle on Amazon. What you have to do is create book series. 3 books or more that work together. Now, what's a book series? What really makes a book series? I'd love to know from you, if anyone's done a book series, what is a book series? I'm talking about what. Of course, the books have to be similar. They have to have something in common to be a series. I can write 5 marketing books. Doesn't make them a series. To you, what makes a book series? Now, what similarities are we going for? There's a way to work out a book series. Again, I put in my description or in my title a book series people want to read. Anyway, Michael, how are you doing? Happy Friday, Michael.
It's Friday, the right day.
Yeah, I'm not sure you should be singing though. Calm down. How are you today?
To fly and play.
He's gonna carry on singing. God help us.
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm all right. You're here, and I saw you coming earlier. I was talking to you, but you didn't seem to want to speak to me, so and then you fell off. Which is
I
cool.
didn't hear you.
Really?
That's what. And then I thought you were not there, so I was like, "Oh, okay, he's not there." So I left.
No, but you came back. It's a good thing, let's talk book series, right? Has the idea ever crossed your mind? I know, of course, you haven't written your first book yet.
Oh, yeah, I haven't written my first book yet. The idea hasn't crossed my mind, but I do read book series, and I was introduced. I've been trying to introduce a bunch of people to one particular one that I like to read, which is a sci-fi series, and it's 20 books. It's by C.J. Cherryh. It's called the Foreigner series, and it's quite fantastic. I really love it. Then I was talking to a friend of mine, and what book series did she? No, I don't even know if you can call it a book series because it's so huge. It's like a monolith. I mean, it's massive. I can't remember. It was on a sci-fi genre as well. What was the name of it? I can't remember. But anyway, when I do, I'll let you know. But with respect to that, if I could ever have the opportunity to do that, that would mean that my audience is captivated, or I am totally into writing. Well, I'm getting a whole bunch of ideas to um, and I'm learning, like basically expanding my universe in order to write and to put down my thoughts and creating into multiple pages, thus creating multiple series. Or the topic is so huge that it can diverge into all sorts of subject matters. Not just mathematics, not just science, not just evolution, maybe devolution as well. But then, what about what do you call it? And anything to do with geopolitics? Oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about there, and also history as well. What happened in history, and how did it come about, and how is it associated with the subject matter? That is, I think, the biggest area that I would be particularly interested in basically merging what has gone on in the past and and equating it with what's actually going on now in the present and what would likely happen in the future. There's a connection. The past is not irrelevant. The past is relevant because it dictates your now, and it also will dictate it shall dictate your future. That's how significant your past is. You can't just forget it. A lot of people there's a bunch of people that say no, we're not interested in history, or we're not interested in our past, or forget about the past because
Yeah,
it's already
you
done.
have to be interested in history. Our past determines our current and our future.
Yeah.
We'll do what we've done before, and history has
Unfortunately, Annie, I've ran into people who do not think that's the case, or think that that is absolutely not what should be happening. I'm like, wow, which
happened. So
which universe did you come from?
let me give you an example. A good example, controversial, I'm sure. Like this Ukraine, peace thing that Trump is negotiating, right?
Yeah,
You know, and Trump is, maybe he's one of those who believes in what you're saying, Michael. That people don't believe in history. Like, Trump is such a
in
buffoon.
Mar-a-Lago.
It's such a buffoon. He doesn't understand how World War I and World War II happened. Like, what World War II happened because Europe chose to give land to Hitler to appease him. Appeasement is called, right? And
You
all
know,
that did was embolden him to come back for more land, and that's how it started the war, right? Now, Trump is saying to Ukraine, give up your land to Russia and they'll go away. They won't. They're going to come back for more. History tells us this. It's really frustrating.
you know that he's genetically linked to the Germans.
But it's genetically a buffoon. That's why I was saying. And I didn't know it was linked to the Germans, but no, he's a buffoon. He's a total, he's a monkey. He's a pea-brain monkey. Look, let's come back to our book series, right? You know the series that you mentioned that you read.
Yes,
What's the similarity between the books? What connects them?
the characters.
Okay, well, I'll take that for
Directly.
sure. I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that.
The characters and also the no, but the characters connected. And it's certainly the characters because the venues change. Where the stories take part always change, fluctuate. But it's not necessarily, and when I say that, you have to go in a little bit deeper because the placements, the environment, the 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 way she the way the story is actually told is from a human perspective. I would like to actually, because it's on an alien planet. I would like it's well, let's just say the characters come from an alien planet, and the humans, by happen chance, got on a spaceship and got themselves lost on that in that universe and landed on that planet just to save themselves. And thus now we have to interface, and that's this geopolitical thing, between humans versus the aliens comes about. A war breaks about, by the way, between them, which is kind of fascinating. All these interrelationships between the sci-fi and what's actually going on in that right now is they're related. You know, you can actually the Ukraine, whatever's going on with Ukraine and how that started, that can be an entire book in a sci-fi genre, and you can talk about that. And really create a bunch of series out of that, because the story hasn't, the Ukraine war hasn't ended, but there are so many chapters that can have that to this point that you can write in a book for future generations in order for them to understand what's actually happened here. You don't necessarily have to have the same characters, but you can, just like Animal Farm, which is not really a series. It was just one book, but you could create a bunch of series using animal characters. You know, that's just an example. And that's it.
More like that.
It's made fictitious, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's relatable.
So when you mention history and so people writing about the past. So Alexis and I are working with an author of that right now, who's
Hmm.
92 years old, and he's written about the Biafran War in Nigeria. You know when how long
Hmm.
ago that was, right? Before I was
That
born.
was quite a while ago, but
Yes, it was long
there's
before
the
in
people
independence.
from Nigeria have very, very strong opinions about it, but nobody's actually
They
written
do.
a book.
Right. No, so but no, he has. That's why I'm interjecting to sort of to mention. Now
Mm-hmm.
the book is coming. So Alexis is doing her thing. She's doing the editing as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to read the book. Hopefully I get to publish a book. But there's no
Mm-hmm.
guarantee. You know how life goes, right? I'd love to publish a book, being Nigerian and all that. But look, let's build on. I think you can hear Michael's joy that at the fact that the books are one more than one, two,
Yes.
the story is engaging, and the next book theme or story is also engaging. It's as engaging as the last.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is what we want our series to be. Now, Paulus has three books in a series. It's all about Jack and Walter, same characters, as you say,
Mm-hmm.
same family in different settings. So one book is about starting a new school. Another book is about dealing with the loss of a grandparent, and the
Mm-hmm.
third one is about starting a new school. The anxieties that
Mm-hmm.
children go through.
And it's
My
all about presenting a problem and then
yeah,
solving a problem.
I agree. Now, essentially, you have to create a theme that runs through the books. Without saying, look, there's many ways to create a theme. And so I'm going to go to Alexis in a second. So I will say, but look, book series, they're similar in the storyline, it's the themes and the message. Some have an ongoing story. Some, like Michael's, the one Michael talked about, right? So
Mm.
there's some. If you think of Enid Blyton's famous five books, each book each book stands alone, but they're parts of it's the same characters, right? The
Mm-hmm.
boys having an adventure. I'm saying, your book has to have that something similar. So you can
Mm-hmm.
have some have similar message.
It should
Yeah,
have that adventurous quality when a reader opens it,
yeah.
because
That's if your book's
we
about
are,
that.
and that's what people are. We are adventurous people. If it doesn't matter what the subject is,
That
we'll have an
that's if you
adventure with it.
that's if you write about adventures. If you write about romance, it's a different kind of adventure, right?
It's a
I
different kind of
know what you're
adventure, but then it takes a particular kind of mindset to
Yeah,
understand that being an adventure.
I
I,
agree. I
I
agree.
with me, I would like, okay, what the heck is that, But then when someone comes to me, like my sisters, they talk about it, and then you can see how their ambience actually elevates their mood, their the way they get excited talking about it. It gives them something to look forward to. You can imagine. It's also something to
Hmm,
present as a great gift, because now since you have
right.
no idea what this thing
Again,
is about, but if you provide it as a gift.
I said that let's hold there for a second, Michael.
Hmm.
Hold there. But see, when I say that your audience wants to read, it's easy to get greedy. I've written 4 books, so because I wrote them all, there must be a series. No, they're not. Your readers want more of what they enjoy. I take that point, Michael. They want
Mm.
whatever that is. Right? If that's a story, if that's a theme, if that's the message, they want more of that. That's why they
Mm-hmm.
buy a series, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I said to
And that's
Dr.
why the term uncle.
Yeah,
Uncle.
when I turned to Dr. Paula and said, you know what, if Amazon will let us have 2 books as a bundle on Amazon, then let's just add another one of your books, because she has about 6 books, by the way. And I say, just add another one after book number 3, and she's like, no, I'm not having it. No, I'm gonna, I want the Encore series. I want the Encore bundle for Christmas. That way she can sell it at lower price to her audience.
Mm-hmm.
No, so I accept the point, because I think she's probably right. The temptation to just throw another one in there because I wrote it is so there. Don't do it. Don't be fooled. Your audience won't like it. They won't even know what it is, and then your series flops, right? There has to be a genuine relationship between all the books in your series. I'll explain more as time goes. Let's talk to Alexis, and I will answer all your questions in the comments, my friends. I can see some amazing ideas in there. Miss Alexis, how are you today?
I'm just fine, thank you. Great.
Excellent. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It was great to have you on stage. Yes, my
Hello, Miss
editorial.
Alexis. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Well, hello, Michael. I think we've met a few times along the way, but thank you.
Yes, we have, and we've actually DM'd each other. But
Yes.
Yeah.
every meeting is always like new with you. So
Well,
no
thank
memory.
you. I've heard more entertaining comments. So thank you.
Yeah. No, you go back to your DMs on WhatsApp. It's fine.
please take it as that. I do not
No,
promise any more in the future.
it's all right. Miss Alexis, talk to us. Talk now. Book series.
Oh,
What can
wow.
What's your experience? What can we learn from you?
Oh, well, a book series usually has a main character and a main thing. Going back to my childhood, which still captivates me, is Nancy Drew. Because there were so many books written by the same author. And so even today we have a series. And what it is the character has to stand alone. This character has to be captivating and engaging, intelligent, and you always want to know their thoughts next. Now that's a mystery and a crime, but we have series, could be nonfiction, and it still has to have what it has to have is a theme running through all of them. Each book captures a different part of that theme, and it should be the most successful way, the most entertaining way, or learning whatever genre it's in and whatever point of view you're coming from and what you're looking for. It should have a flow, like a top down. Like when you write a paper, you have a summary. This is what the paper is going to be like, and every chapter or every paragraph covers things, but it's in chronological order, for want of a better word. So I think series are great. And that's good. Now, I do like series. So, and I think if an author is entertaining or captivating, and the subject matter is captivating, whether it was meant to be in a series or not, I think we look forward to the next one, to the next book. Let's look at Stephen King. And that's about all I can say, because if you know Stephen King, you know exactly what I am talking about. So that's what I think about series. I think they're great. And
yeah, they're certainly helpful. I'm glad you mentioned Stephen King. The point of having a book series is that you're encouraging people to buy the next one. Now, people want a complete set of anything. And I'm not saying they're going to buy a complete set. I'm saying, if you create a series, there's more chance that they'll buy the other books around you. Of course, now doing what I do, the publishing and marketing of books, I see every day that people forget their first books. They focus on the current book, the books that's coming out now. Because if you've got a series, I promise you're going to be forced to address book number one again, again, and again. Why do I say such words, my friends? Look, if you have a series, you can't say, it doesn't make sense to start readers today on book number 3. Now, even though you got book number 3 that you're going to market because it's a standalone book, you're going to have to try and get new readers to start at book number 1. Even if that was written 10 years ago. Now, they have to start at book number 1 and get to book number 2, get book number 3, and 4, and so on. That's what Alexis says, because the books flow, right? It's whilst each book stands, they must work together, and the readers want they want a full story. There's something Alexis said in there which is easy to miss. Look, each book has a theme, it has a beginning and an ending. But your series must have a beginning and an ending, an umbrella type of way, type of feel to it. Where by the time it really gets to the end of the series, they've seen the full story. As Michael was saying, they start off on planet Earth, and then but by the time they get to Zorg, now they've seen all the characters develop. They've seen how this story plays out, how it starts, how it ends, even how it middles, right? If you want more book sales, create a series.
Yes, I have another comment. We cannot forget to mention, I think her name is J.K. Rowling. Is that
it? Yeah. Harry Potter.
One of the most successful modern day writers, and myself watched every movie, read every book. It's like big here with our family, and it will go down through generations because this is phenomenal. Just a person who wanted to make a living, who had an imagination. And look at this. She just went with it. And here's a comment about her that I admire greatly. She became a billionaire, and she lost her billionaire status. And this is why. Because of her charitable donations. She just kept giving. And that's my comment. That's the most.
That's a good on her. A friend of mine mentioned me yesterday and said, should I give half my proceeds to a charity?
Well, all depends on how you want to die. You came into this world as a pauper. You shall leave this world as a pauper, irrespective of how many billions you've collected. So she's on the mark, really.
I'm sure. Look, I accept your point, Michael. It will come to the graveyard is full of many rich people, right? And the money is not in the grave with them, and I get that, right? No, I think the issue, I guess, I picked with him is this: if you want to sell your product, because he's selling caps, hats, call them what you like, right? Caps, not women's hats, but baseball caps. I'm saying if you're gonna add the charity angle in the hope of getting more sales, it won't work. Here's why. See, if I want to give to Oxfam, I just go on the website and I give to Oxfam. Without you, I don't need you in the middle. I'm not going to buy you a book to give to Oxfam. I'm going to give to the charity directly. So many people use charities as a hook for their books, but it never works because the audience know the charities are going to get a pittance, less than $100 in most cases, because people don't buy books to fund charities; they buy books to buy a book. Do you get what I'm saying, Michael?
Yeah, but I also think that people give to charities because they want to become famous.
Some do. Some do. So, most of us don't. I give to charity every month. They'll never mention me.
It's not
Apart
that
from
they
when they
want to
email
be,
me
it's not
to
that they want to
remind me.
become rich. They want to become famous. That's about it.
Yes. Yes. Now philanthropy is a thing, right?
Hmm.
Philanthropy is a thing, saying so now that's what the Bill Gates of this world exists. They want to get rich and they want to give it away. Of course, that's fine. So that's perfectly fine. It's I say, but if you want to sell your books in the back of a charity, at the very least, you're gonna have to get a charity to be a partner and market that book even harder because now the revenue is going to be shared. So again, one thing that we as readers know and book buyers know is that you are going to have to cover your costs. So the charity bit is tiny. I'm just giving my opinion. Like I said to my friend, look, I'm telling you what I think. You haven't got to listen to me. If you truly believe you want to do it attached to a cause, you go for it. Prove me wrong. It's fine. I'll learn something from you. Yeah, Alexis, I see you've unmuted.
Yes, I have a comment on that. I think we've examined this before. Writing a book to raise money for charities doesn't really work. There's a lot of costs there. Unless you have a large percentage going to the charity. However, what usually happens, and from my experience and observations, is that when you have, if you notice, and you've probably seen this on TV or wherever, internet, people ask for, the companies or ask for donations, and they say, if you donate this much, you get this. If you donate this much, and every higher tier, you get something else. So one of those tiers of donations is you get this book by this author. And so that raises the charitable donation, and that's how it goes. So still, you are covering the costs. Publications is writing, and publications is a tough business, and there's a lot of costs behind the scenes with it. So you really have to have a passion for what you're doing.
I agree 100%. It's not as easy as it sounds, right? It really isn't.
No.
Okay, how am I going to do this?
It's a good thing I have a passion for this and somewhat of an addiction.
Yes, yeah, and addiction helps. I truly believe an addiction helps.
Yeah.
So let me play my sponsored video for my day. That way, I am doing the right things for them.
Yes.
Where's the one I want to play? Why is it not there? That's so annoying. Have I deleted it? Okay. So I played Power Thinking's video. I'll play Donna's video. Why not? So it's a couple of minutes, my friends, see what can help.
I'm Donna Martin, founder of the Good Life Approach and creator of the Daily Reset, for those of you that aren't familiar with me. I created the Daily Reset because I had the experience of being a nurse for over 15 years. 5 of those were spent in palliative care, where I dealt with hundreds of people in their deathbeds. I had a wall multiple times through burnout, and that got me thinking, what tools do I use? What tools did I have in my toolbox? What things did I use to reset myself intentionally? Whether it was before going to sleep before night shift, whether it was before going into work, whether it was after certain incidences or things that were really stressful or impactful. Then when I had kids, it was, okay, how can I reset when I'm frustrated, stressed, agitated, emotional, hormonal? All of that, or when something happens in your relationship and you're trying to keep it together to go to your work, or when I changed from being a nurse to being a business owner and having 3 kids and then moving from Ireland to Australia. You're always in these moments of resets and in the moment. Instead of stuffing them down, what I learned to do was actually in the moment reset, in the moment can pause, release, in the moment ground, in the moment release, in the moment literally reset my energy, because for over 20 years I have intentionally been manifesting. I have been in that personal development space, learning from the best in the business, Bob Proctor, becoming an NLP breakthrough coach and practitioner, becoming certified, becoming a best-selling author. But all of those things are just titles, the empowerment coach, all of it. But the daily reset, the tools that I have used have come from over 20 years in experience. I created a program specifically for healthcare workers to start. That is now a CPD certified program here by the Australian Institute. That in itself shows you how powerful this process and this course actually is. It's a 1 hour easy tools implementation. But regardless of your profession, this is what I want to share with you today. Burnout doesn't have to happen. By setting many micro moments, by implementing and instead of stuffing things down and letting things fester and grudging people and being annoyed at people and holding that energy that's making you sick. It's about releasing it. It's about learning to express the energy, learning to get it out of inside your physical body, because we are constantly magnetized. We are made of energy. And what we put our attention on, we focus on, we actually attract. When you have that understanding and understand how you operate, understand how you're always magnetized, turned on and manifesting, you will start to look at your life differently. You will begin to realize and understand the power of resetting your energy intentionally to choose the outcomes you want. That's the power of the daily reset.
Yeah, the daily reset is a good thing, my friends. It's a good thing. Let's not go into 2026 with our current struggles. Let's free ourselves from the stresses and strains that could do us in, right? And we have to go into 2026, with intention to live our best life, the good life that Donna Martin always talks about. So my mindset coach, by the way. It's always a good thing, right? Right. Let's go over some of the questions, some of the comments. Have a great vacation. Who's having a vacation? I tell you, I'm jealous. 2026, we must have our vacations. Too many of us have just worked on for years. Alexis, you too. You need to have a vacation. Go away, right? So Adley, I see you. Welcome. That's all too long for my little brain to get through. But I can see you're here. So thanks for joining us. So Shalila has sent everyone a connection request, right? I don't know where it's gone. Anyway, Shalila sent everyone a connection request. Please do connect with her. I don't know why the message hasn't disappeared off my screen. Okay, let me work my way through them. Your kind words, they make me blush. So I'll look at them, I'll smile, and I'll move on, right? Josh, do I sleep? Of course I sleep, Josh. I sleep every day. I don't sleep when everyone else sleeps. I sleep in the morning. I sleep between today. I went to sleep at 7 o'clock. I wake my son up to go to school. So I've been doing daddy duties last couple of days. My wife just came back from her journey. She's been away for, those couple of days. And after I do what I have to do, my night shift, I call it, then I go to sleep, right? And I woke up at lunchtime, 12 o'clock today, right? So that's how I tend to be. Lisa, so Natalie's going to catch up with you in the week ahead if you're about. That's a good thing, right? Hopefully I've mentioned everyone. Okay, that's Shalila's message. I follow some of you. Follow back, let's connect. Please do, right? Victoria, we're meeting on Monday. I hope we get to put some, let's put some dates. I mean, so Monday, there'll be a few events, another week of events left before Christmas. I'd love for you to join the studio. And then, I guess experience that feeling, of having them all looking at you and learning from you, and then everyone saying, now I know Victoria. And then hopefully we can build from there into, your shows, right? That's a plan. That's why I see it working. There's a few great questions in there. So Natalie says, what was your process to get from idea to paper to ebook published? Oh, it's always a process for all the authors, I think. I think most. Let me start by saying this. I think you always think your first book. You always think I've got nothing to say. And when you commit to write that book, then you realize it's a long process. It's not easy. It's a job. A book to business is from is right. You have to put some work in. I guess I've got a simplified process because of what I do. Like I said, every event I do is a chapter in a book that I haven't written yet. That's every event. Even with my co-hosts, it's a book that I want to do with them, and then I want us to create a book from the content we discuss. So now these events, they end up being a big chunk of chapters, Natalie. Each event is a big chunk of chapters. Today's a big chunk of a chapter of books, and I talk about book series in my How to for Authors book. When am I going to write that book? I don't know. We tend to let ideas and our book ideas stew for a long time. One day we decide, okay, I'm actually going to write this book. Then we create a plan, right? We create a plan. The plan is normally the chapters, the structure that you want to follow. Once you have that plan, then you start writing to the chapters. You create subheadings for each chapter. You tell the stories that you want to tell. The book is all about telling stories, my friends. Yes, there's factual stuff, but the stories you tell is what people are going to remember. So you work out, what am I trying to say in this section? Which stories am I going to use to illustrate those sections? Then you get writing. I tend to have a process, and I talk about this all the time. You're going to write a book. Work on doing something often. Don't aim to sit down to write your book in one binge session. It's not going to work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It does not work. A book is a living being. You're going to have days where you feel alive, full of ideas, full of information, full of content. And you're going to have those days where your pen doesn't work. When I say write, please don't write with your pen. Write and type. You can't do much. After you write, you're going to have to type it anyway. Because you can't do anything with a written notebook these days. And you can write your notes, but you're going to have to eventually get it onto a computer somehow. Be thankful we've moved beyond the days of the typewriter. You might make a mistake and then have to screw up the paper and throw it in a bin. So learn to get writing, get typing, get telling your stories. Eventually, somewhere down the line, again, the question I get asked very often is, when do you finish writing your book? I'm going to come to that. I think Marlene asked a question today. She says, how many words should a book have? Look, your book you carry on writing as long as your pen is writing, right? Your pen will tell you when you finish writing your book. When your pen stops, you got nothing else to say, then stop. Don't try and force it, right? It's a hard one. It's a hard one. I tend to try and think along the lines of, okay, so I've written what I said I would write. Then what more do my audience need to know? Yes. Is that what more do they need to know that I haven't said? It gives you more to write about. So when you finish writing, you have to find a publisher. So one of my friends came to me yesterday, and she has a 20-book series for us to publish. Okay, I'm game. She's willing to fund all 20 books. I'll do it. It might be many of my books for next year, but I just have to crack on and get through them myself. Even each one's 200 pages long, and they're romance stories. That's straightforward for me to publish, right? Well, in the real world, normally what will happen is that your book, when you come to me, I'll say, talk to Alexis. I need your book to be correct in every way, grammatically, structurally, and there must the way that it flows. Alexis mentioned flow earlier. Now, your book has to flow. It has to be something that the readers can understand and work through. Now, hopefully with joy, with entertainment, with enthusiasm, with anticipation, what comes next. Alexis does all that. If you don't get past Alexis, I don't tend to see your book. If it's not Alexis, get yourself an editor. I don't care who it is. Get an editor. There's nothing worse than publishing a book on Amazon and then Amazon says it's full of errors. Now I'm beside myself because now I have to go and correct those errors. Sometimes that will add additional lines, additional words, additional things. It may reduce your word count, but it doesn't mean I have to reformat your book to put it onto the bookstores. But you must format your book. Again, I mentioned my friend who had 20 book series yesterday. So when I looked on her KDP, Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing account, I saw she's tried to upload the books already. Not all of them, I think 5 of them. Amazon blocked 4 of them. It means there's something that she's not doing right. If you're wondering why do you need me, why do you need Alexis, I just told you. You want your book to be right. Otherwise, it's not going to get published. Whether it's an ebook or a print book. So part of me thinks we put too much of a difference between ebook and print books. Now, to me, as a publisher, it's the same book, it's the same content. Now, there's some more things we can do with an ebook. We can add links, we can add media, we can do stuff. Now we can add videos if you want to. Whereas a print book, obviously, that doesn't make sense, right? Or you can just put links in there, which people probably won't click on, which won't enter into the computer anyway. So there's differences, but essentially, once your book formatting is done, it's going to be ready for print and for ebook. Ebook has a few less rules than print books. And print books have dimensions. Print books have, so the book size, it has layout criteria, restrictions that you must meet. All your content must fit within boundaries. Of Amazon's publishing process. So you can't go beyond the margins. You can't go beyond top and down. Top and down margins. And of course, in print books, your content must be legible. It must be clear. People send me stuff every day. I want this cover. You're like, I can't read those words. It's too small, too close to the edge. So I'm forced to move them. On ebooks, you have a lot more freedom because those restrictions don't count on screen apparently. But when I do your print book, then it's going to be your ebook too. I know there's a step in between. I haven't told you, but that's working with Kindle Create. So that's the basic process. Your ebook tends to be published maybe quicker than your print book because, like I say, there's less restrictions. Once you publish your ebook on Amazon, then it gives you a chance to publish the print book. You cannot do it in the ebook if you want. So it's up to you. Alexis, I wonder what you want to add about the process.
Thank you. I was hoping you would ask. I'm pretty clear on this. I'm an editor and I'm also a writer, and I have worked through publication with publishing houses. The best way for a writer or an author to submit their book is in a standard manuscript form. Sizing, type, spacing. Why is that? It is so that someone like myself can go through and easily read your work and work on it that way to make sure it's clear. And what I do is make sure it's in a format and type and spacing, that also font size is important to be consistent, so that when Annie receives it, it is a lot easier to go through production. If you have ideas on your type size, and cover, illustrations, that's great. Keep them. But where it comes into play is once I am through with it and it goes to Annie, then you present it to Annie, and that is a consideration to work out with production. So now, if you've already written a book and you've made a cover and everything, and you maybe self-published, that's great. You can present that as well as a clean copy of your manuscript, or the best that you have. And that's great because it gives the vision. But what I work with, or any editor works with, is a manuscript that is workable. But we love your ideas. So, and the other thing is, you don't have to be perfect, but it has to be clean. In other words, in a format. And I suggest this. There's so many manuscript or format apps out there, but the best one, the most universal and the simplest to work with and easily to present to the publisher and production is Word, because it is the easiest one to change things. And then what they do in production, they use whatever they use. I don't work there. To get things that are specific for publication, because they consider margin and all kinds of things, what size book, and the type size makes a difference. So if you want it to go quickly and smoothly, try to be as clean and clear as possible, but maintaining your ideas to be presented to the publisher. And that way it will be easier to move through and quicker.
Genius there, Alexis. Genius.
Thank you.
Look, my friends, a clean copy is everything, right? I don't think anyone's ever sent me a book in the format, like the dimensions they want. Now, of course, in terms of what they want on these pages, they send me, right? That way I know. That way I'm not guessing. Is this a new chapter? Is this a new section? It's another different page. So Word is good, of course it is, but it can't do, I can't do many things that we do in production, as you call it, Alexis, when it comes to doing your book, right? You've got different fonts, you've got different, we can manipulate layouts. I can move stuff up and down as I need to when I design the book and layout. In Word, you just press return, and you hope that return is a return. It's one line. There's two lines. Now I'm forced to guess, is that intentional, or is that a new section, or is that a new chapter? What is it meaning? It's all of that, right? That we have to play with. I'll say, go on, Alexis. Please, sorry.
Now, I was going to say that's true, and because I've worked with it forever, I anticipate all these things. So what I do once I've editing, and I've gone through checking all the headers and lists and everything, and then I go back and I look through all those things. And to use an old term, I always check for widows and orphans. So I check for those things. But Word is great for editing, and for publication, I don't think so, because it does do all those things you were saying you have to guess. But as my experience shows that I just go through and try to clean that all up. But then I just send it to you guys and knowing you'll work your magic.
Superb. Nat, great question. Look, always open to talk, of course. That's Nat's question. So I love Marlene's question because there's no answer. Right. How many books? So in a book series, how many books should you publish annually? Oh, how long's a piece of string, Marlene? It's a hard one. It's a hard one. In practice, I think we published Paulette's 3 books over a year. So at least my first one was in May, April, and then in the summer, and then at Christmas time. 3 books a year, I think, gives your books the chance to breathe. What do I mean by that? The chance to breathe means you give your books air. You give each book time for people to see them, to know what they are, and to buy them. You give yourself a chance to market each book without feeling rushed. I know people who want to publish 5 books at once. They always regret it in the end. They always do. Because some books in there don't get to breathe. And also, you don't learn in the process. Ideally, you want to do a book, publish it, get it out there selling. And on that journey, you learn a lot. You learn what your readers want, don't want. You learn a lot about what you can do better for the next book. If you just throw your books out at once, then you shorten that space. Can you publish 20 books at once? Of course you can. Is it going to excite readers? Maybe. If you've written 20 brilliant books, your readers might just be dying, to read the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. The risk is if your books could be improved, you've missed your chance. But then, of course, if you work with me, Alexis and I, me and Alexis, we can make changes as we go. There's no perfect answer. Alexis, I wonder what you think. Yeah, I'd love to know. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
So how many books can we publish in this series every year?
I would say 3 is good. No more than 4. No more than 4 because what is that, like 3 months a book?
Yeah.
So no more than 4. That would be pushing it. 3 is good. And 3 is pretty standard if I remember. So it's good that way. If you publish everything at once, it's overwhelming for, I think, the general population. While they want to get all of them, and I'm sure they would, it's overwhelming, I think, mentally, financially, maybe for some. But to present them to publisher editors, that's fine because they can organize it and get it into the schedule. That's great. But publish them, I think 3 times a year is actually the ideal. And then just letting them, it's first in the series of X, second in the series, or more to come. And that's marketing. So that's how it's usually accomplished. And those are my thoughts.
My phone rang. My phone rang in between, so I got a bit stuck. Anyway, look, hopefully we've answered the question. And I think there's a process of writing those books. More than 1 book a year. It doesn't get easier to write a book series. Let me tell you, right? It's hard work, and the hard work, it doesn't get easy. Book 1, the excitement. Book 2, you realize you have a challenge because now you have readers who have thoughts, right? Who have feedback for you. So it's a it's never easy. By the time you get to book 3, Now, hopefully you haven't burnt out by then. You know, this is to everyone, really. You know, Paulette has a 12-book series written already, hence we'll publish 3. You know, saying, you know, you have to have the plan for your books. It's very hard to create a plan after the last one, the next one. You know, it's not as easy as it sounds. It takes a lot out of you. Yeah, so let's go to curator's questions. Anyway, what about books about a famous person? Is that feasible? Of course, you can write a book about a famous person. I guess the thing that I would highlight is you need to find the information to make sure your book is correct. You know, and the question I guess you may want to ask: how do people do biographies about people? You know, essentially they embed themselves with that person's family. That often biographies are written with the person there, right? And they're there for to at least tell their part of the stories, and to give you the bits that no one else knows. You know, their biography it's a job. You know, it's years of research. And of course, people are going to give you duff information. You know, duff information that's not right, that's not correct, that's not their opinions, basically. You know, does that mean you don't publish it? It's up to you. You know, if you have a slant that you want to portray in your book, then you go with your slant, right? Whether it's correct or not, you know, who knows? You know, but let me say, I will say, there's people there who are waiting to pick holes in your book. So you want to make sure those holes are not there. Alexis, you got thoughts on this, or should I go on to the next one? It's a job. It's a job. You know, so okay. Alexis, do you have thoughts on biographies?
Biographies are great. I like to read them. They're inspirational, and you learn a lot about human nature, because what you see is not always what's behind the scenes. And forgive this, but you can't always judge a book by its cover. I'm sorry, but it's true. And so I thought you'd appreciate that one. Though I'm telling you, sometimes covers are very captivating. Biographies are good. I think they are. It depends. You have to remember that they're based on actual happenings and facts. So it's when you're writing, and that's where a good editor comes in. When you're writing, we have to learn to separate fact from fiction and not embellish them with words that create certain types of scenarios. Biographies, it has an expertise. I've worked on those as well as memoirs, which are 2 different things. But yeah, they're amazing, which is what I'm working on now about the Nigeria. It's an excellent book. So anyway, no, biographies are good if you remember to keep within the perspective of facts. And there's less writer's license with biographies than there are with fiction. So that's my comment.
I was stuck trying to reply to someone who asked me a question in a DM. So I agree with you, Alexis. Be very careful, because it's a real person. So I like that. That's the truth, right? That person, their family, their friends will know more than you do. Yeah, even other researchers know more than you do. Get your story right, then you're away. Again, Marlene, another great question. Does a cliffhanger empower a book series? Oh, that's a juicy question, right? Look, each book in your series must be able to stand alone, have a complete story. Alas, as we've mentioned already today, the next book is related strongly to the book, your current book, right? So readers must have a reason to want to read the next one. Now, if you're writing, I guess, a fiction book, then you need cliffhangers and door openers. Say cliffhangers, the hook at the end that makes them wonder what happens next. It's good to make people want to read the next book, Marlene. Of course, then you have door openers on the next book, how the book starts, basically, that picks up the story. That's if that's a kind of series you've written, great. But many series books are complete stories in themselves, and even more umbrella, complete. I say umbrella complete. To go from beginning to end. If the story is a continuation or full of episodes of the same stories, then you need a cliffhanger. Otherwise, people they won't care what happens next, right? But you can, if you're writing a non-fiction book, you can get away without necessarily having cliffhangers in that sense. If you ever feel like jumping on Alexis, please do. Otherwise, that's our time is going, right? So Ariel, I agree with you. I believe there may be characters that continue from book to book, for sure. But the storyline can change. It really can. It's still, Michael mentioned it earlier, it's different parts of the journey. So your storyline for book one could be, the birth, how it all began. Book two could be, I guess, the childhood years. Book three could be the teenage years. I'm saying, it's the same characters, same people. Of course, there's more people added each time as the story evolves. Otherwise, it's going to be the same boring story, right? But the storyline can change. The plot can change. The location can change. Everything can change. Apart from, as long as you keep that theme, what makes this book a series? What links these books together? That's a question that you really have to keep in mind. Alexis, please go for it.
Yes. The series, each book is complete in its own. It's like murder mysteries, but it could have the same detective and some of the same players, but it has to be complete. What captivates you, it's kind of like a cliffhanger. It's like, what's next? What venture, what mystery are these characters, the main characters, going to ensue or experience or solve? And that's what's so great about it, that it's complete in itself, but it's so captivating that you want to see what's next. As Annie said, it depends, what you're writing. Do they age? Do they grow? You have to always have a focus. What is your objective? What is the goal? Is it a story about some person's life and their adventures? Or is it just, again, I go back to mystery and the murders, because those are so popular with some people, because it's always, who is the detective? And what are they solving? What is it next? And it goes with romance novels, venture novels. And again, it can be any genre. What is the goal? What is the character? And so each book in the series is complete in itself, but it should always leave you wanting for more. What is the question? And the question is to be answered is, what's next?
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you. Look, one of any secrets that many people don't know is that films have traumatized me. I was so traumatized by a film series. A film is like a book, right? A film series that I never watched a film since. And that film, I watched a couple of films on instruction from my friends on here. And so then one day, with the family and I, so two older kids who went to go and watch Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings 1. If you've watched it, you will know that the story never ends. I could swear. That's how annoyed I am, and how annoyed I was. I spent 3 hours watching this damn film in the cinema, and there was no ending. I never forgave filmmakers after that. George Lucas, is that George Lucas, that's his name? But no, how many? There's different parts to this Lord of the Rings trilogy. This is just his trilogy, I'm sure, right? I never watched the next one. I didn't care, because this first one just never ended. I just felt so cheated. Okay, don't make your readers feel the same. It might feel like a cliffhanger. It's not a cliffhanger. It's just annoying. There's me trying to tell George Lucas how to do films, right? Is even George Lucas? And I will create Lord of the Rings. I'm trying to tell them how to make their films. They made millions of money out of their films. I just don't like things of that end. I just feel deeply annoyed. So because of that experience, I haven't watched a film in 20, maybe going on 30 years now. Yeah, going on 30 years, like 28 and a half years. That's why I say what I say, Marlene. But look, don't let us stop you trying different things, right? Now, of course, I know there's many more questions, but let me play the video that I brought to you today about creating a book series. It's a 5-minute video. It gives you a lot of tips that could be useful. So give me a few minutes to play that, and then we should round off, and then we should call it a day. Oh no, I'm going to a tab. That one. Yeah, that one in it. That one. Here it goes.
We're going to talk about the truth about writing a series, the good and the bad, things that I did not expect. Let's put it that way. So in case you don't know, I have written a few series in my time. First of all, back there, the 2-book series or duology, the number series. Then there was this series, which looks like more than it is because there's 2 covers, one for hardcover, one for paperback. But this is a 4-book series, fantasy series, in case I didn't say that. And then I also am writing now a 3-book fantasy series. This is book 1. I am currently in the midst of writing it, so there are 3 total. I have written both 2 and 3, but they're still being edited and are not published yet. So I have some experience on writing series, but not like long series. Like I've never written anything that's like 10 or 15, which like, I don't know how authors do that. That's intense. But I do feel like I've learned a lot from these series, especially the 4-book series, because, well, let's just get into it. Let's talk about, first of all, the hard side of things. The first thing that I kind of already hinted at is that each book gets harder as you go because you're juggling all these characters and this world, all these things that you've set up that you have to keep consistent. And so you have to go back and look a little, and you have to keep it all straight. Number 2, reader expectations can be terrifying. And I say this because once you have a book that readers love and they have decided they like it, they expect the next one to measure up. And if you haven't finished writing it yet, or you're like, oh my gosh, here's what they expect from it based on reviews, what if I don't get that right, or I don't do the twist that they want to see, all of a sudden you have that in your head as you're trying to write it, unless you happen to write ahead, which is one of the reasons I actually do try to write ahead, at least a little bit. I'm not obviously done with the books yet, so it's not a perfect system, but if I was reading reviews and they were like, oh, I want more of this or less of that, or I don't know what it would be, and that's going to influence what I do in book 2 or make me worried that I'm not giving them what they want. And in some ways this is actually a good thing as well. Like there's a positive and a negative side, because I think listening to reader feedback is really good. I have done this before where I actually listened to what beta readers said and even once early reviews, and I ended up adding like more romance to this one particular spot and things like that. So it can be a really good thing, but on the dark side, so to speak, it can be a little bit scary to have all this pressure. Once a reader knows your world and your story, there's this pressure of making the next book measure up, if that makes sense. Let me know in the comments if I explain that okay. But then on the flip side, my third point is that if you don't get book 1 right, like say they don't like book 1 at all, then it really doesn't even matter what happens in in the next few books if you can't get readers to read on through the series. Well, something called sell through or read through, depending on who you ask. So there's a lot of pressure on book one as well, not just on the subsequent books, but on getting the first book the best that it can possibly be. And the more you know about this, the more pressure you tend to feel, because with the Stolen Kingdom, I really wasn't thinking about that quite as much, versus now I'm like, oh my gosh, the secret gift has to be perfection if I want people to keep reading through the series. It's just a lot. There's just so much pressure on book one, because if it's a typical series where they have to have read book one to then go on to 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., if book one doesn't cut it, your time is extremely wasted on all those other books that no one's ever going to read. You know what I mean? Fourth point is that you also have to put all of your marketing efforts, your promotion, I guess you could say, into book one to reach new readers. You can market, second, third, and fourth book to your fans who are already reading the series and already know about it and already read book one. Then you can talk about, whatever book you're currently working on. Like for me, I'm working on book 3 and I'm going back to book 2, and I will share about that on social media. But when I actually want to reach new readers who have never heard of the series before, I am never going to market book 2 or 3 or subsequent books to those readers, because they have to start at book 1. When it comes to marketing, especially for a book release, it's going to look very different for a book 1 versus all the subsequent books. And that is something that still kind of blows my mind. I don't want to say it's confusing, because I get it, but it's more, I don't know, unnatural maybe. I don't know the exact word that I want, but it feels weird to me to be working on like book 3, but need to talk about book 1 and market book 1. It just feels a little off balance almost, but it's actually kind of a good thing. I would say that there's both positive and negative to this, because the positive side is it forces you to go back to your backlist and market your backlist and talk about older books. And that's a good thing, because we should all be doing that. If we put all this time into making a book, we should still talk about it and still promote it, still be excited about it, right? But the negative side is that it makes marketing subsequent books, especially the release, a lot harder, because again, you have to, for brand new readers, you have to be telling them about book 1. You want them to start at the beginning of the series, not the middle or the end. So
yeah, good place to stop, my friend. Good place to stop. Yeah, like I said, we could talk on, but I think you shared some amazing tips there, right? So the thing that I'll say to you is to understand the importance of book 1. I mentioned this in passing earlier, right? Understand book 1 is it's your foundation. It's almost everything. Get book 1 done properly, and then you can move on. If no one gets past book 1, they're not going to read book 2, book 3, book 4. They're just not going to read past book 1. Then your series will not work. If you don't create a great book 1. There's many more questions, people, but I do have to go sometime. I'm going to have to answer some of these questions, in the comments afterwards, right? Anyway, that's hopefully you got something from watching the video. Let's do a few more questions, then we can go. Jay, I do see you, my friend. How many pages do author write per book? You talk about an anthology, a group book here, right? Marlene, it depends. It depends what your vision for your book is. So in my COVID lessons I went from COVID book, each author wrote 3,000 words. That's about 10, 11 pages of a 9x6 book. So if you want a big book, then authors get more pages. There's many other things to think about, like cost. So Alexis mentioned earlier, production costs, editing costs, the publisher costs. I guess the share of your royalties Amazon's going to take away from you. But it's not just Amazon, all the bookstores take a cut, right? I'm saying, so it depends on that. If you want a big book, then give authors more pages, more words. I will say this, whatever your word count is for authors, they will go over it. So if you say you've only got 1 page, and that's all you got, and here's how many words it takes to fit a page, most people write over whatever you say. So, you decide on what you want, decide on how you want your authors to get involved. Alexis, anything that you want to say about that? Or should I go on to the next question?
I just think you're right on. There's so many things to be considered, and my advice is keep writing and submit the books to see where it goes. And I don't think there's too many words. Depends. Can always be. If you have too many books in one book, we can just break it down into two or more.
I think there can be too many words. Michael, for example, who wants to be in our health anthology, and if he messaged me earlier in the week and said, "I've got 6,000 words," I'm like, "That's," and I want 3 or 4 chapters. I'm like, "No, write your own book then." You can, Alexis, you can have too many words. I don't want one author dominating the book. It ruins your idea.
Well, that's where the editor comes in, and we try to clear up the redundancies versus reiterations, and more to be said later on that.
True. You got a point there. Nice. That's it. I can rely on you to cut it down to what we say we want in terms of our rules for our book. We have to set the rules. That's the point, right?
Yes.
And so Alexis, as lovely as she is, she's pretty. What am I looking for? She's not emotionally attached to your content. Editors are just not. That's the same reason why, when you can do, if you ever get involved in TV or radio, they will film hours of content to show an hour. Everything. So everything gets cut out. You might think it's important. The editor does no. We're not that invested in your story. We're not attached to what must be there. Unless it has a point. Redundancy. You mentioned, Alexis. Repetitions.
Yes.
What's the word I'm looking? Elaborations, over elaborations. We don't need any of those things. So those things get to come out, and we'll find a way to cut the word count down to what we want, what it has to be. Of course, you might decide that you want your authors to have a say, right? To have a choice. They can say yes.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes what happens is, yes, we do have to consult the author. So yes, I myself don't do things just wantingly. So I just try to consider the point of the whole book.
Yeah, there's a place for that. Dispassionate editing.
Yes.
That's professional editors for you. If you've got a friend or family doing editing for you, then they have attachment to people and to things, to parts, to stories, maybe. Professional editor just thinks about the book and what's going to work for us. What's going to work for everyone, not necessarily what's going to work for you in terms of helping you save more unnecessarily. Again, I like the question. Go on, Alexis.
Oh, one more comment on the converse. If you have written a book and you don't think there's enough words, that's another thing. We can help you complete the story with that. It's called developmental editing, and usually I coach the authors to write more. So I walk them through that. So yes, so you can submit what you have, as long as you feel it's your complete story.
Indeed. So that's the point. I have mentioned you to Marlene because she's writing a group book. So I've mentioned that, and she's also writing a memoir type book as well. About her business, of how we exit our business in the end. We must plan for the exit, right? So Marlene probably, you two will meet sometime when Marlene's ready, and then you can do your magic, Alexis, for sure. Zara, I see you now. Welcome. Look, our time really is going. I have another meeting in a couple of minutes, but I'll do what I can. I'm not sure about what. No, okay, I missed a question in there. Marlene asked about, can you compare and contrast in one book? So can you compare one book with your previous book? I think is what you're asking. I'm not sure. I don't know how that will work.
Yes,
So, you
can.
know, it's like a reverse workbook. You know, that's what I'm imagining, Marley. Is that what you mean? Look, DM me, so let me know. Yeah, of course. I'm always happy to meet to discuss. You know, but you know, I wouldn't. I don't know how I would write a book and then spend the next book picking holes in the last in the content of the last one. I don't know. Can you imagine, Alexis?
It's very intricate, but it is possible if it is a series using the main characters and it's growing, there could be different stories. It's like I always refer to the mysteries because those, trying to think of the name of that writer who's so prolific. But you can always refer back to a case or an incident or someone if it's carried forward. It's very intricate. It's not always easily done, but yes, you can.
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. You know, essentially, so you know, you can say where we went wrong in book one in terms of what we understood, right?
Yes.
And then we set us on the right path in the second book. You know, I try and have a vision of what I'm saying and what I'm thinking. So I try and speak from that point of view. And if we got that totally wrong, Marlene, let us know. So, of course, love to answer your question in full. You've heard the best way to donate to a charity will be to donate annually at the end of the year. That's from books, right? Yeah. Well, you know, I don't. Yeah. You know, you could have more to give to the charity. No, but I think the essence is not about donating to charity. When I think the essence is whether the charity association, you're donating to charity, is the essence of your marketing. If it is, then you're gonna have to find a way to do a lot more marketing to get the charity to have a lot more money. That's the only way I can think, right? Yeah, because most charities don't get any more than $100, even from successful authors. No, in terms of donations from book sales. Book sales aren't going to make you. It's what you do with the book that's going to make you, my friend. You know, it's what you're going to. It's are you going to use it to get more clients for your business, for your coaching business, for example? Are you going to use it to get more clients for more speaking engagement? Are you going to use it for, you know, maybe write a workshop or write courses? That's where the money's at. Now, book sales alone it's not gonna make you rich. If it does, I tell you, you've done extremely well. Very few authors do. Sean, I see you. Welcome, my friend. So, who else I said? I don't know who this is. Oh, live, Omar, Mr. Omar's Zoom party. Thanks for joining us, my friend. I appreciate you. Jay, I see you too. I don't like to miss anyone who gives me the time, right? Look, thank you so much for joining us, my friends. I do have to go. Joni, I see Joni. You know, you're gonna hear more about Joni in the days and weeks coming up, my friends, right? Anyway, Nat, I'll end on you. So, regarding the book series that I've been working on this year, I've already had a few private readings. What are they called? Advanced reader copies. They're called, right? To actually read a bits of the book, and the feedback has been excellent and very encouraging. That's beautiful, right? You know, I think when you have such feedback, it gives you confidence that your book is what readers want and that can help readers. And that's a point of books, right? You know, get some readers to buy your book, and then the impact you have will be greater. My friends, thank you so much. I appreciate you spending your afternoon with me. I never know what's going to happen when we start our shows, but you know, friends like Alexis make my day, right? Alexis, thank you so much for giving us your time and your insights, and also.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Yes, and hopefully you get to work with more of our friends here when it comes time to edit your book and then publish your book. So I'm going to end. Now we're excitedly waiting, right, Alexis? Excitedly.
Yes, and yes.
Look, so I'm going to end with my Power Thinking sponsors video. So do scan the QR code, do download the app. So it does give you bite-sized mindset teachings, which I think is always a good thing to have. Let me hide my scroll and then let me play my video. Look, enjoy yourselves for Christmas, my friends. I'm not going to see you in this room, but of course I'm going to have other rooms next week. So do enjoy your weekend and let's have more fun on the other side. When it comes to doing your books. Of course, if you want to write a book, you got book dreams. Let's talk. Let's help you write a book. If you've written a book and you haven't published it, let's talk. Let's get it finalized, edited, and then published. That we can actually start impacting people. And if you publish your book and it's not selling, again, let's talk. Marketing strategies will work. Not least you being a face for your book and events like this. And there's also many offline marketing techniques that we're going to have to start using in the new year, my friends. Look, thank you so much. Enjoy. I said bye.
It's time to change the way you think. Download the new Power Thinking Corp app, available now in your App Store.